Hi, I'm Tony Kent, and this is a special episode of Tony Kent Writes and Cross-Examines, because today we are going to be cross-examining a concept rather than a person. That concept is in the body today of author Paddy MAGRANE, and the concept is online crime. Online crime is this year's substitute to the Lyme Crime Writing Festival that was due to have its first year, its inaugural year this year. Obviously, that's not happening, but as you can see from down below, Paddy is not the man to say no, or the man to be told no even, and therefore we are having online crime, and we want to tell you all about it today. Paddy, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. If I was going to be really honest, Tony, I'm slightly anxious, but I'm fine. I'm managing that anxiety. I'm compartmentalizing it in a safe place.
I imagine you are a bit anxious. I mean, it's what, we're one day away. You're launching tomorrow, aren't you? It's Thursday. It begins Thursday the 25th.
Yeah. We are one day away, yeah, and there are things still to be done, yes. It's a little bit like the day before Christmas Eve, and you haven't done all your shopping kind of thing, vibe.
If it was the day before Christmas Eve, my wife would be doing things, and I'd be waiting for presents. So.
I'm that person rolled into one here.
Right. So I want to ask you, first of all, briefly, now, Lyme Crime was your idea, the actual physical festival Lyme Crime. That was your baby, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Where did that come from?
It came from, I think it was born in the lovely tent, the lovely marquee at Harrogate Crime Festival. And I thought, I'd actually not been to Harrogate until last year, actually, miraculously. And I kind of thought, this is, you know, there are other crime festivals, but there's nothing quite like Harrogate. And what I loved about Harrogate was the kind of camaraderie and community and warmth, and the bar. That was a nice aspect. And I thought, why not replicate something down south where I am, which is, you know, it's beautiful countryside down here. It's a stunning coastline, and Lyme Regis really felt like a great way of kind of replicating the vibe, but also adding kind of seagulls and ice creams and a whole different kind of coastal seaside to it. And we've got this great theatre. We had this great theatre, and we still have this great theatre lined up for next year, the Marine, which is a beautiful kind of 1930s building, which has hosted in the past James Cagney, Fleetwood Mac, Danny LaRue. I always bring that one out because people are always impressed. And it's just got a great vibe, and it's also got an outside space, so you can just drift in and out of talks and enjoy the sea. And I think it's going to be a winner. Yeah,
and that would have been taking place this weekend.
Yes, amazingly enough. God, I had just
what weather you would have had.
Yeah, what weather we would have had. It would have been amazing. Yes, it would have taken place this weekend, and I think I probably would have been a whole lot more nervous about an actual live thing.
Yeah. Well, you've seen how those authors get when they've had a few drinks.
Yes. I mean, Lyme Regis is a historic town full of listed buildings. I dread to think what damage some of them could have done. Yeah. Well,
this could be the best of both worlds then. So obviously we know, as everything else in the world has shut down, obviously all of our festivals this year have shut down. Yeah. But as I said, you're not a man to take no for an answer, and you've pulled everyone together, and you're putting on this incredible online event.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm not really one to take no for an answer. The stupid thing is that no one was asking me a question, so I sort of just kind of created my own kind of problem. But I do think that lots of other festivals have been incredibly generous, and they've reached out to people who are kind of locked down, potentially isolated, disconnected from the communities they love. And I was really impressed, actually, funny enough, I was really impressed by Hay Festival, which has put on this extraordinary free event. You know, every single kind of talk completely free and beautifully organized. And I kind of thought, I mean, obviously, I'm not even beginning to replicate something on that scale, but it's all free, and it's making sure that people remain connected to the things they. I thought that was a really, really important thing, and also selfishly, it keeps Lyme in people's, mind, in the hope that they'll sign up next year and attend in person.
Well, I'll certainly be there, well, provided we're all allowed to go. I'm presuming we will. What I thought we'd do is have a quick look through the programme. I've got the programme in front of me, and it's a really unusual programme, actually, isn't it? Was it consciously put together in that way? Just so people know what I'm talking about. It's very, very it's very current, because obviously we look at what's going on in America with Black Lives Matter and the impact on prisons, etc., etc. This is a very crime and punishment based festival, isn't it? With some real, you know, some real life people rather than just us that write about it. You've got people here who live it.
Yeah.
Was that intentional?
It was intentional. I mean, I wouldn't say that all this kind of thing, it wasn't the original program. The original program is still online, actually, and it's a more traditional crime festival program. But I think the world kind of shifted on its axis, didn't it, in the last sort of 2 or 3 weeks? And I was also kind of reaching out to slightly different authors, anyone who'd kind of had a book coming out now, who'd maybe kind of missed out on kind of promotional or marketing opportunities. I kind of felt that they needed, you know, if they wanted help, then I was really happy to give it in as much as I can. But yes, absolutely, there seemed to be a major kind of shift, and I did want to. It was on my mind when I was programming, but you know, the actual one that would have happened at the Marine, it just kind of didn't. And there's something about being in lockdown and observing the news from within lockdown. I kind of thought this is something we absolutely have to do. Yeah. I think I don't see why not, in a way, because many of the authors, you know, who we know and love write about real, you know, really important issues, and they're either smuggled in under a blanket of plot and you know, tension, or they're more overtly dealt with. And I thought, if we're writing fiction about it, why don't we also talk about the issues that kind of inspire these writers? So yes, there is that. Obviously, there is that very particular race and criminal justice panel. Yeah.
Which is very interesting, because obviously people are going to be able to come along virtually on their screens. They're going to be able to watch some very traditional panels, you know, people talking about very traditional writing stuff, you know, things that real writing fans will be interested in. But as you say, they'll be looking also at some things that can tell them a bit about the way the real world operates. You know, maybe a little bit more than we see on the TV screens from the people who are at the coalface.
Yeah.
So I thought, before I look at the program, I thought the one thing we should certainly do is say, how do people watch this, Paddy?
Okay. So I can give you 95% of that answer. There is a mix of live events and the details of how you kind of register or log in will be both on Facebook and the Lime Crime Facebook page and the Lime Crime Twitter pages.
Right.
There will be a mix of pre-recorded events, just because this is how people's lives are working at the moment, and also internet connections being what they are. People have decided to go for some pre-recorded events, and they will launch thanks to the wonder of YouTube premiering at exactly the moment that the panel is scheduled. So there's a real, you know, there are things to look forward to.
Yes.
And then there'll also be about 3 or 4 live Zoom events, which you can either register for. So, for instance, the race and criminal justice one, you need to register for. Or, for instance, you know, your panel, and I'm doing an interview with Ellie, they'll be live too. And I haven't quite ironed, in a true seat of the pants kind of approach, I haven't quite ironed out the details, but everything will be on the Facebook and Twitter page. I'll be individually highlighting all events too. So
anybody can access it via Twitter, or watch it live on Facebook, or well, I'm going to say live or recorded live, premiered. On
Facebook. Or they'll be taken from Facebook or Twitter
to YouTube.
YouTube, yeah, absolutely.
So sounds complicated, but it certainly isn't when you think about it. You just go onto Twitter, go onto Facebook, Lime Crime, and it will take you where you need to go.
Absolutely, yeah. It's not. I mean, it's been a bit like dismantling the Hadron Collider for me, but for you out there, dead simple.
Yeah, well, I'll agree with that after Saturday and Sunday when I've done my 2 live events for you. I'm going to switch. You'll still see me, but I won't still see you. I'm going to switch across to the program, so we'll have a quick run through of that just in the last 6 minutes or so, and let people know what we're going to be looking at. Where are we? This was the post. So 25th of June, tomorrow, we start at 2 p.m. A double shot of Scotch, which is McIlvenney Award nominees Douglas Skelton and Neil Broadfoot discuss being part of Tartan Noir, writing from a Scottish perspective, how life after lockdown will never be the same for them or for their characters. So that's 2 p.m.
2 p.m, yeah.
Okay, and then at 4 p.m. on the same day, so again tomorrow, Planes, Trains and Pickup Trucks. You have Mark Edwards and Ed James, 2 fantastic authors. And they're talking about setting their books in America. And I think they'll be telling people all about the very, very eventful research trip they took. When they went together.
Some bad things happened. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, I think we won't give any of that away. I think people are going to want to know about that. And I would say, knowing Ed and knowing Mark, I really recommend that you tune into that. 4 p.m. tomorrow, 6 p.m. tomorrow. Train Noir. You have SJ Holiday and Mason Cross, who, for the purposes of this panel, will be Mason Cross, talking about their most recent novels, which were set on trains. That's Violet and What She Saw Last Night, isn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely.
That again promises to be extremely interesting. They were two fairly dark, claustrophobic books. So I think people are very keen at 6 p.m. on the 25th Thursday. 7:30, music, mystery, and du Maurier. Crime writer Sid Moore and Olivia Isaac Henry met on a creative writing panel. Pardon me. In this conversation, they discussed the value of creative writing, their love of Northern soul, and the haunting appeal of Daphne du Maurier. This panel comes with a soundtrack. Olivia put together a playlist when writing Someone You Know, a collection of her favourite Northern soul tracks. So that's unusual, isn't it? I mean, as a panel, that's got quite a lot going on.
Yeah, and I probably could have kind of phrased it more pithily, but when they were chatting, I mean, they're such great friends. It's a really lovely rapport between them.
Yeah.
They both love Northern Soul, and I sort of was aware of Northern Soul, but they're basically, Olivia put this. I mean, lots of writers do, don't they? They kind of write with the book in the background. I can't, because then I start writing, incorporating lyrics, but I really, it's fascinating because it's a whole world that's opened out to me of these kind of crazy jiving Midlanders wearing flares. It's fascinating.
My father-in-law used to own a Northern Soul nightclub, and I think he owned a Northern Soul record label.
Right.
But, so yeah, I've heard a fair bit of it.
Okay.
And that's basically your party to end Thursday, and that's at 7:30. Yeah. And there's also some du Maurier thrown in for everybody who wants to listen to some chat about books as well.
Yeah, fantastic.
So then we go on to the next day. On Friday, it's a full schedule, isn't it? Starting at 11 a.m. And that starts Dark Days and Bright Nights. And I'm going to have to admit, I can't pronounce the name of. Is it Elijah?
No, I've had some tuition in this respect.
Please do it for me.
Well, I might still get it wrong, but it's Lilia Sigurðardóttir.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So
I'm going to say it's understandable that I couldn't say that.
Just stick with Lilia. It's all good.
Lilia. Well, Lilia will be talking to Quentin Bates, and they're going to be talking about both of their series, which are both set in Iceland, and exporting Iceland's very own flavour of crime fiction into English, which comes apparently with a side of elves and witches. Now that sounds interesting. Dark Days, Bright Nights. So that's 11 a.m. on Friday.
Yeah, it's a fascinating chat because it brings alive something uniquely Icelandic, which is. When she talks about research, it's really interesting how quickly you can get to the very highest source of government if you want to talk to someone about a particular kind of policy or something. All very accessible. So sorry, I'm talking too much, but yeah.
No, not talking. We're going to go well over our 15 minutes anyway if we're going to do this properly. So let's just do it properly. And then that's followed at 12:30 by Rachel Ward, Derek Farrell. Again, two great authors. Derek particularly. I've not interviewed Rachel, so I can speak particularly for Derek. Hilarious man, absolutely hilarious man, and I'll definitely be tuning in for that. That's 12:30 p.m. It's called Not So Cozy Now. So two authors who are proud to have their work described as cozy. They'll be sharing their views on how contemporary cozy novels can also be the most subversive. Derek certainly fall into that category.
Yeah.
The perfect way to look at evil in our society in a balance of light and dark. So that sounds. Is that pre-recorded or is that live?
That's pre-recorded. I've watched it. That's really interesting too, because basically what we were talking about earlier on about writers writing about the real world. They are way unlikely writers for that, but certainly Derek's books cram in an enormous lot of very difficult material between some real belly laughs. So he strikes a very delicate but brilliant balance, and I think that's what they'll be talking about.
Well, that would be a very, very interesting panel because, as I say, Derek can make anyone laugh, and his books, as you say, are very, very they're dark, aren't they? In their own way, they're cozy but dark. He gave me I'll remember it. I will remember it. He gave me a brilliant thing for it, something cozy, a new term. But anyway, let's move on. 2:30, we've got your first appearance on screen, Paddy, when you're talking to Doug Johnston about the inspiration behind A Dark Matter and its follow-up, The Big Chill, which is his new series, isn't it, about the Scalp family, three women who run a funeral directors and alongside it are private investigators in Edinburgh. The Business of Death panel, 2:30 p.m. That's you and Doug. Is that have you recorded that already?
It is actually fantastically in the can. When you said I'm on at 2:30 on Friday, I kind of thought, shh. And then, yeah, it's in the can. And I had a great chat with Doug last night. And we, so he talked about his when he was writer in residence at a funeral director, how he never thought funeral directors would make, you know, a very good kind of source for a crime novel, but how basically he writes three women, amazing, three generations of women, amazingly. It's a lovely chat. He's such a great guy.
It's a great guy. A man who's got the most talented person I think I've ever met. He's an astrophysicist, rocket scientist, drummer who can write the way he writes.
It's painful, isn't it?
Incredible. I'm quite jealous. But we move on then to 4 p.m. on Friday. That's Multiple Murder. Does the genre choose the author, or can the author call the shots? That's Marnie Richards, Michelle Davies, Ros Watkins. I know two of them well. Marnie and Ros. I mean, that would be a great panel.
Yeah.
And then we have 6 p.m. on that day. The one you mentioned earlier. We'll probably spend slightly more time on this one. Race and Criminal Justice. Now, this is probably the most unusual panel, but the most relevant panel, I think, that I've ever seen at any kind of crime festival, online or not. And I'll just read out the description. George Floyd's death has sparked widespread anger and protest in the US and UK over police abuse. This panel will look at some of the issues relating to racism and criminal justice, both in the US and the UK, including discrimination in death penalty cases in the US. And the panelists include Kenneth Reams, an artist, social justice activist, writer, founder of Who Decides, and the youngest person to ever be sentenced to execution in Arkansas history, when he was aged 18 in 1993. Kenneth is still incarcerated on Arkansas death row, has spent every day of the past 27 years in solitary confinement. Kenneth will be speaking from his cell at the event. Alongside Kenneth, there's George Kendall, a leading death penalty and civil rights attorney at Squire Patton Boggs in New York. Shamik Dutta, partner at Bat Murphy, specialist in civil claims and public law challenges against the police. And the moderator will be Samantha Knight, QC, who is a barrister and an adjunct professor at the University of Miami. I mean, as a panel, that's something else, isn't it? You must have been completely blown away to be able to secure that.
Yeah, and I can't. I mean, you know, it's really kind of to say. It's down to to Samantha actually, who's a neighbour in the village. Sam run a little literary festival in the village, which together we managed to draw brilliant names to. But because it's a village in the middle of nowhere, the crowd, the audience was somewhat limited. But we did a panel with Kenny last year and showed the UK premiere of this fantastic documentary called, I think it's called Free Men. Yeah. And it's a documentary about his life inside this prison and his existence in solitary confinement in a cell, which is basically the size of a parking space at your local supermarket.
I saw something literally last night. I was watching was it last week tonight or this week, the John Oliver thing. I can never remember what it's called, but it's a fantastic show. And they were showing, it was a COVID-19 section, and they were showing the cells that people were sharing, which I imagine are even slightly bigger because they're shared cells. Yeah. And they couldn't even walk past each other. It was just incredible.
I mean, he's basically in this cell pretty much all day and then let out to exercise in a smaller space. And it sort of just, it's beyond comprehension what he has to endure. And it's also beyond comprehension what he has managed to carve out by way of a survival mechanism. And in a way, it's more than survival. He's actually to some extent thriving. He writes, paints. He's obviously a social activist. Yeah, he's constantly talking to people and constantly organising. Sam has helped him organise art exhibitions. So he's had one down here in Bridport, and he dials in from his cell for these talk. Well, he dialed in for this cell last year, from his cell last year for this talk at the local. And it was of an extraordinary moment because he's got a very deep, resonant voice. He's super articulate, super hopeful, because he has to be. And when Sam talks about the case, I mean, I won't give too much away, but it will, I think, make people feel extremely angry about racial prejudice in criminal justice in the States, but also in death penalty cases. I mean, it's going to be something else. But
I've worked on a few things that touch on that, and I won't go into it now because I could waste all day talking about it, because it really is something that needs to be addressed. It's awful, but I mean, what an incredible panel for you to have on. Obviously, we'll learn so much from that. Do people have to register for that one?
Yeah, they have to register, and the link is definitely close to, if not top of the page on the Lime Crime Facebook feed. So
okay. Well, after that, then, I mean, that's a very serious one. It's quite hard to follow it, isn't it? But we've got to follow it because there's a festival to talk about. After that, Noir at the Bar, which is that wonderful thing that's been going on for so long now, and that follows the festivals around, and that Vic has been doing an amazing job with over the course of the lockdown. So you have, just to describe it, 7:30, there will be a host of top crime and thriller talent, and they will join a live virtual Noir at the Bar to celebrate online crime, where they will preview new work and celebrate the Noir at the Bar anthology, which collects 30 of the world's best crime writers in a collection, with all profits going to the NHS. So Noir at the Bar, I mean, of everything, that's the one that's entitled to work well, isn't it? Because Vic's been getting that down now for 6 or 7 weeks to get the virtual Noir at the Bar now. And so people can tune into that, and they can hear various authors. Do you know an example of a few of them?
I'm gonna forget now, but I know Ed's doing it. I'm doing it. Jennings is doing it. Neil Broadfoot, Helen Fields.
Yeah.
Derek is doing it, and Simon Barrett's doing it. So I know I've forgotten one person.
Well, so, I mean, I think Rob Parker might be doing it as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's a really, really good list of authors. That's a superb list of authors. And just so everyone understands it, I mean, in true festival style, Noir at the bar part of it is not just said there because it rhymes. People are invited to have a drink, sit down, and be entertained, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it will be, you know, we'll be replicating that in an actual bar in Lyme Regis next June.
Fantastic. And then that takes us to Saturday morning, and that's my first contribution to this. Setting the pace. When a book becomes a roller coaster, thriller authors Alex Knight and me, Tony Kent, reveal the secrets of writing a page turner. I'm not sure whether Alex or I know the secrets of writing a page turner, but we'll give it a go. I can only speak for myself on this one because it's the first panel that I'm involved in. But we would very much welcome any questions. Anybody who wants to fire some questions in advance or on the day, because we'll be recording this live, please do, because Alex, or Mason Cross, as is otherwise known, Alex and I can talk for hours, but it will be probably more entertaining for some people if we do that with a bit more focus. And that's 11 AM on Saturday, the 27th, and then followed by at 12:30, Monsters in Our Midst. Now, this is written, this is a panel with 3 very, very successful psychological thriller authors, Tabby Cohen, Cass Green, and Amanda Jennings. They discuss themes in their upcoming or most recent books: long buried secrets, monsters hiding in plain sight, why crime readers and writers are drawn to the darker side of family life. I mean, that's another recorded one, isn't it?
It is, yes, I believe it. Yeah. Okay,
and I mean, they're 3 very, very interesting, very different, but very, very interesting authors. And I think that's for the people who like those kinds of books, that's got to be a must-watch, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Followed by at 3:30, character versus plot, the showdown. Devilish twists and turns, compelling, believable characters. The very best fiction is always rich in both, but should crime fiction lean slightly more towards one or towards the other? Lucy Whitehouse, all the way from America. Fiona Cummins and Kaz Freer will tackle the literary chicken-egg conundrum. What comes first, character or plot? That sounds very interesting. I mean, that's a proper debate, isn't it?
That is, yeah, absolutely, proper debate, and 3 titans debating it. So really,
yeah, they are. I mean, they're 3 very, very good authors there, aren't they? And then 5 PM, we've got you back, Paddy. You're back, and this time you are live, so I'm not shocking you. We know, you know, characters on the couch.
Yeah.
Erin Kelly and psychotherapist Paddy MAGRANE, because I hope people already know this. That's your profession, isn't it? Delve deep into the psyches of Marianne, Jess, Helen, and Honor, the lead characters from We Know You Know, Erin's psychological suspense novel about mental health, motherhood, and betrayal. And that's being recorded live, so we'll be on tenterhooks for that one.
Yeah, so I'll be certainly adrenalized at that moment.
And We Know You Know, that's Erin's follow-up, isn't it? Not a sequel to, but a follow-up to her incredibly successful He Said, She Said.
Yeah, and I think people need. It's really important to know it was published last year in hardback,
Yes.
and it's reissued now, as we know.
Yeah.
But whatever it's called, it's a fabulous novel about dark secrets in and around this abandoned asylum, and it has so much to say mainly about mental health and the treatment of patients, but also about motherhood and betrayal. So what we're doing, hopefully, I'm sort of thinking I might have the makings of a Tony Kent Writes and Cross-Examines series. That I think, the idea of putting characters in novels on the couch, so psychoanalyzing the characters, the main characters in novels. I don't know whether it might not be the success I have in my head, but I think it's
a great idea.
Way of understanding our protagonists.
I'm already working out how messed up my lawyer character is. I've got my intelligence character, Joe Dempsey, who is basically a man regards himself as having been indoctrinated by the British Army. Okay. In the same way as if somebody was killing for an Islamic terrorist group, you'd say that they had been indoctrinated, and he takes the view that was done to him when he was killing for the British government. So he'd be interested for you to do that. But we're going to have to talk about this, because my lawyer character, he's really messed up. And then once you can go off and have a drink and you're off the live recording, the final panel of the day, which is 6:30 p.m. New Blood, New Stories. So this is your debut panel. Yep. So 3 new authors: Stephanie Roble, I apologise, Stephanie, if I got that wrong, Robin Morgan Bentley, and Will Schindler, discuss their debut titles, what drew them to crime, and what readers can expect for them in the future. And that's got the lovely Amanda Jennings moderating.
Yeah. So that should be a real goodie. I mean, they're just. I know that I certainly. I don't think Steph's book is out yet, but I know Will's and Robin's are already kind of gaining loads of momentum and energy and love. So it's fascinating. It's
always wonderful to be on a debut panel. I wasn't on any debut panels. I'm not sure about you, but it's always wonderful to be on a debut panel. It makes a big difference. It really does. And then that takes us to Sunday, the final day, and I'll try and go through this as quick as I can. Again, I'm taking the early shift. Law and Order, Lyme Regis. I wish I'd prepared my little monologue of the Mickey take of Law and Order now. 2 cops, 2 lawyers, 1 judge, 5 writers. Now, this is going to feature Lisa Cutts and Neil Lancaster. Lisa is a current detective, I think, in the Scottish Police. Neil Lancaster was a very senior detective in terms of the kind of work that he did in the Metropolitan Police. On the other side, we have myself and Imran Mahmood, 2 current practicing defence barristers. And in the middle, we got His Honour Judge Nigel Lithman QC, who is a very old friend of mine, has led me in about 10 murders over the years. Very, very, very funny man. If we just let him speak, people have a whale of a time. But the whole idea of that, just so people understand, that panel is designed to get the cops' view and the lawyers' view, the real-life cops, the real-life lawyers, about the way that crime writing is presented, and the realities, the exaggerations, the inconsistencies, all of that sort of thing. And then we've got a judge in the middle of us making sure we behave.
Yeah, brilliant. And thank you, just really quickly, thank you for putting that one together, because
oh, you're more than welcome. It should. I'm on tenterhooks that I can control them. And then we have the second from last, I believe, The Mindful Detective. And this is a conversation between author Lawrence Anhalt and his actor daughter Maddie Anhalt about Lawrence's Mindful Detective series, which features a Buddhist who feels too much for his own good. Maddie narrated the recent audiobook version of the first title of the series, Art of Death. So father and daughter discuss characters, voices, setting the novels on the Jurassic Coast, which is around the family home near Lyme Regis, meditation, and the way in which the writing process could be like lucid dreaming. Now, this is at 12:30 on Sunday. This is another strange panel, isn't it? In terms of, you don't normally get panels like this.
No. In terms of what you mean, well, basically, what's interesting about it is that, yes, it's a father and daughter discussing it, but Maddie has kind of basically inhabited that novel by all the kind of characters in the book. I mean, she's a great actor, and so she knows it really, really well. She knows it in a slightly different way, because she obviously presented the book back to her, with these kind of voices. So she's kind of, it's I guess a little bit like seeing a TV adaptation of your work.
Well, it's really original because it wasn't really the father-daughter thing that I was thinking about. It was the fact that, I know, but it's relevant. Sorry, it's audiobooks. I mean, we don't get a huge amount of coverage at festivals for audiobooks, and they're massive now. They're a huge part. I mean, for example, your own most recent book is an Audible exclusive, isn't it? Red Desert, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the most Audible. Is an Audible exclusive and is only available on audio for a year. Before it then comes out in book form. And that's really not that unusual anymore. That's getting to be a bigger and a bigger thing. And I think it's important, if unusual, but important to sort of present that at a festival. I've not seen it done before.
Yeah, and I think audiences, our audiences are kind of slightly more, I don't know. I think if you go to a festival, a real life festival, people are expecting the physical copies there to buy and get signed. But I think online we can draw attention to other vehicles, and it's right and proper. And obviously, I'm totally biased. I want to shine a big spotlight on Audible.
I've not actually spoken to you since I interviewed you before the launch of Red Desert. Actually, it's done incredibly well, Paddy. Congratulations! It's really strong, isn't it?
Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm really, really pleased. It's had some fantastic feedback. It hit kind of a nice high note or a high kind of ranking in the Amazon suspense charts, and it's still ticking over really nicely. So
fantastic. It's a great book. It deserves all the success, but to get a lot of books deserve the success. So for one that deserves it to get it is always wonderful to see, isn't it?
Thank you very much.
And then anyone who's bored with my voice by now, we're coming to an end. The last event, 2 p.m. 50 Shades of Noir. Polar opposites Neil Broadfoot and Derek Farrell discuss bonding over a shared love of crime and wine. I know Neil very well. I know Derek fairly well. As I've said earlier, Derek's hilarious. Neil, just as funny. I mean, that will be another must-watch. 50 Shades of Noir, 2 p.m. on Sunday to close out the festival. Will that be live or is that recorded?
That is recorded, actually, but it might. It will.
I really wish that was live.
Yeah. I do, and a part of me doesn't actually want it to be live. When they talked about doing the panel at Lyme, it was kind of, I can't remember when it was scheduled, but it was certainly, it was at a certain point in the evening that would have given them ample opportunity to drink quite a lot before. And a part of me was quite nervous because I still don't know what my audience at Lyme will be like. Will it be a typical literary festival, slightly grey, sort of Viking river cruise territories, and if they all turn up and those two are on stage being their absolute reprobate, we are in real trouble. So the recording's safer. Yeah. It's a dry run. Well, the whole thing's a dry run, isn't it? The whole thing is, but what a great dry run. I mean, thank you.
I have to say it's exciting. It's exciting to be a part of it. Thank you for asking me to do it. But it's also, it's very exciting to watch. There's 4 or 5 panels there that I won't be missing. And there's a number of others that I'm hoping not to miss. It's very, very good. I think there's something there for everyone. We'll probably sign off now, Paddy, because it's been 30 minutes. And can
I just say one really quick thing?
Yes, please.
This whole thing would not be possible without the support of the crime community, who are, I think, just amazing in the way that they pitch in. So that includes you, Tony, for taking on.
Thank you very much.
2 panels and giving me so much kind of support and bigging me up on this thing, and also being my technical backup.
Do you know, anyone that knows me well that watches this will laugh their head off at that suggestion.
Well, yeah, but compared to me, you are.
I'm just luckily not in court at the moment, so I can Google things and work out how it works. Well, look, Paddy, I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you very much for this. Sorry that it was me talking a lot, but someone had to read the programme. And we will, I will talk to you once we're off air, but for everyone else's purposes, we will see you tomorrow when the festival begins with the very first panel. At what time again?
Can you?
I will tell you that just to be sure. So everybody, tomorrow, first one, 2 p.m. A double shot of scotch. Douglas Skelton, Neil Broadfoot. Neil is opening and closing the festival. Douglas Skelton is a great person to listen to. Very, very funny in his own very morose way. So that will make for a great time.
Douglas has been invaluable doing loads of editing for me. So I love him deeply. Yeah,
he's a really great man. So anyway, there you are, 2 o'clock tomorrow, Thursday, the 25th. Watch and register.
Yeah, thank you, Tony.
Take care.